Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Dynamics NAV webinar for March 16th, 2017. Before we get started, I want to make sure that there's no problems with audio or video. So if you can't see my screen, please respond via the chat or you can post a question, and I'll wait just a second for that. And I'm not seeing any messages, so I'm going to assume that we're good to go. So our time today, we'll do some brief introductions of your presenters, and then we'll talk about Microsoft Dynamics NAV. I'll give you a little bit of the background and talk about its overall capabilities, and we'll spend most of the time today doing a live demonstration of various parts of NAV. After that, we'll save some time for a Q&A session. My name is George Delp. I'm the sales manager here at Interdyne Artis. Prior experience with Big Four accounting, and I've been selling and implementing mid-market ERP software for the last 15 years. Joining me this afternoon is one of our implementation consultants, Sean Dorward. He has 16-plus years as a Microsoft Dynamics user. He's very active in the Microsoft Dynamics user group community, so much so that they named him a Microsoft Dynamics All-Star. Microsoft Dynamics NAV. So to start off, I want to position NAV in the Microsoft Dynamics family. It's a little complicated these days, especially if you go to the Microsoft website. You might not understand exactly what is what. But at the low end, you have Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Edition. That's for entry-level companies, probably 10 million and less. They have a cloud-based accounting system called Financials. It's like $40 a user per month. It's definitely economical from that standpoint. They will be releasing some CRM functionality with that solution later this year. On the other end of the spectrum, you have Dynamics 365 Enterprise Edition, which is based on the old AX or Exapta. So that is for that's for enterprise-level organizations, and implementations there. And they generally start at 500,000 and up. So where we're at today, we're in the small and medium business category. And there are three products, Dynamics GP, NAV, and SL. Even though it says NAV twice, that first NAV should say GP. And today we're going to look at NAV. We do webinars for the other products, so you can check those, find those on our website. There's also a lot of complementary products that work with all of these. Office 365, which will show you a little bit today, as well as Power BI. The Azure hosting service, Power Apps and Flow are also worth checking out. But back to Dynamics NAV. By small, medium businesses, we mean companies usually in that 10 to 20 million range, all the way up to, 500 million to even $1 billion in revenue. So, medium gets pretty big. So Microsoft Dynamics NAV was released originally in Denmark in 1987. It was acquired by Microsoft in 2002, and it's been part of the Microsoft family ever since. And there's about 120,000 users worldwide. So out of GP, NAV, and SL, NAV has by far the largest customer base. There's a long-term development plan and a robust partner channel. And by partner channel, I mean companies like ours, the companies that help people evaluate and implement Microsoft Dynamics solutions. As you can see, NAV is a phenomenal growth rate. It's almost a straight line, so I would expect us to be up to 140,000 customers by the end of 2017, and it just keeps on going. It doesn't see I don't see it stopping anytime soon. NAV has a broad range of functionality. Financial management is your accounting, your payables, your receivables, your fixed assets, things like that. And NAV actually has customer relationship management built in. So a lot of you may or may not be familiar with Microsoft CRM as a standalone product, which is now part of the Sales Enterprise Edition solution. But it does have built-in, you can track activity leads, quotes, things like that. So it has a sales-type CRM built right into the solution at no extra charge. But project management, we mean jobs. So that's where you're accumulating cost on a job, time, expenses, invoicing those jobs. Supply chain management is very robust. That's your sales, inventory, purchasing, and it also has quite capable manufacturing solution, manufacturing requirements planning or manufacturing resource planning, capacity requirements planning, things like that. And then there's a human resource management module. It doesn't have payroll, so there is an add-on, though, from a company called Serenic that if you did want a payroll module built into your nav. One of the things I really like about nav, it is a true multi-platform solution. You can run it on your desktop with a thick client. That's the traditional way. But there's also a full-featured browser client that'll run on pretty much any browser out there. They also have tablet and phone clients. Now, these aren't just accessing the web client through your tablet or phone. These are purpose-built apps that replicate the desktop experience quite well. They're also quite snappy, so it's not like you're having to load and refresh red pages. They work really well, and they're available for all platforms too. And then, last but not least, there's a SharePoint client. So if you want to surface nav information in SharePoint, you can do that pretty easily. As I mentioned, there's a lot of development that goes into nav. So nav 2017 was recently released, and some of the neat things that they added there, they really did a lot of updates and showed a lot of love to the mobile clients, including touch gestures and things like that. They updated the nav engine quite a bit, and that allowed for some new features like pictures in line with the forms, as well as performance upgrades. Another huge thing, and we're going to show you this today, is the in-Office 365 experience. So you can see going back, they continually add significant new capabilities with each new nav release. So we don't know the next name for the next nav version yet. If I was a betting man, I might say nav 2018, but we'll see what they do. One other thing I want to point out before we get into the actual demonstration is, nav does a lot. You saw that slide. It has a broad range of functionality, but no software solution is going to do everything. And nav has a very rich independent software vendor community. What these are, these companies that make add-ons for nav, and they complement and extend the out-of-box functionality. These modules, most of the time you can't even tell they're an add-on module. They're built in the nav toolkit. They're accessed within nav from the same menu, and it opens up a screen just like any other nav screen. So they're really seamless and easy to use, but they cover everything, extended barcode or WM, sophisticated WMS functionality. Nav has decent WMS functionality out of the box, or e-commerce sites that will be integrated straight to your inventory, as well as sales orders feeding straight in. Credit card processing has become quite a specialty these days with all the PCI compliance issues. EDI services, shipping modules that integrate with shipping carriers, time clocks, and there's a whole lot more. Depending on your needs, that's part of our job, is to help you identify the right add-ons to make a complete solution. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean. First, we're going to pause and see if there's any questions. And then we'll turn it over to Sean. And we're going to take a look at some of the basic financials, a little bit on the sales cycle, the purchasing cycle, and then Jet Reports, which is, we do financial and other, you can also do subsidiary ledger reporting there. But first with the questions. So how much does nav cost? That's a great question, and I promise I'll answer that. I have some slides that I'm going to show you as soon as Sean gets done with his part. Here's another one. Does it work on Android tablets and phones? Yes, it does. You get support for Apple, the Google ecosystem, as well as Microsoft tablets and phones too. And then is the CRM included, or is it cost extra? Yeah, the CRM is included. There's no extra cost for that. And I think that's it for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sean, and we are going to take a look at Live Nav.
Excellent. Thank you, George. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we give a nice introduction to Microsoft Dynamics NAV. And if you're seeing my screen, George, I'll get going. I have my Role Center client up.
Looks good. I see we have the President Role
Perfect.
Center ready to go.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So just a brief introduction here to what happens after a user would log into Dynamics NAV. The system operates using what they call a role center, and the role center is closely related to responsibilities throughout an organization. So here I have a President Role Center with different action items in my ribbon across the top, so I can quickly get to some reports. I have some nice KPIs here that I'll talk about a little bit more, and also some lists, nav functions almost across the board using data lists, which is quite nice. So notice here, I just want to point this out, George, if I could. This is the President role, and this is the Purchasing Agent role. See how different that is? So for folks who are into the actual business process here from the purchasing perspective, a lot of that relevant tasks and information is surfaced right onto our Role Center home screen for us. So right from logging in, I can quickly see I have 14 upcoming orders that I have to take care of. I have one PO that has not been invoiced. And just at a quick click, I can be taken right to that actual list and see this is my one document that was not invoiced. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to go back to my President role and show you a little bit about these KPIs. Now, each role center is personalizable, customizable to the individual user's experience. So if I didn't maybe want to see this cash flow forecast, I could minimize that. I could also remove it from here completely if I'd like. But what's great about these is the way you can interact with the system. So just a quick highlight over here. I can see the actual values. A nice double click will take me into the transaction that made up that value. Same is true over here for my cash flow. All these color indicators, these visual cues, I can double click and take me right to those individual transactions. So just a little bit there about the Role Center. Additionally, we have a list here for my customers. So in the center of my screen here, my customers, these are customers that I maybe have a lot of attention to. Maybe they're my big customers, maybe customers who are new. So here I have one, Progressive Home Furnishings, with full integration Office 365. At just a click of the button on the phone number, I can be taken to my Skype for Business and make that phone call, saving me a lot of time and energy. So also here I have my report inbox, and I'll show you about scheduled reports. Rather than actually going out into the system and finding the data you need, you can schedule them to be delivered right to your Role Center, and also notifications. So what we're going to do first, as we introduce you to NAV and its functionality, is I'm going to go into my inventory area and then select my list of inventory items. So this is a different type of list screen. Here's my inventory items, all of my inventory here, as you can see. And also on the right-hand side are fact boxes. These boxes show relevant information about the highlighted inventory item. Now this is the same layout you'll see when you're looking at things like vendors or customers. So for this particular item, I can see I have my standard cost, lead time for shipping, how many open orders I have. If I wanted to go ahead and look at this at maybe a particular, let's see, maybe a particular set of numbers, I can filter this out. So if I just do everything that starts with 1, my list will let me do 2. That was pretty easy. Or contains the 2. Now my list is changed. I can save this list so that I can access it right from my Role Center as well. I'm going to remove that filter and come back to my bicycle. And a quick double click on my bicycle. Notice how that window opened full screen. That's because I asked it to open full screen. I put it back to a regular state here. What's great about NAV, another great thing about NAV, is that it remembers my preference. So if I set my window to this size and close it and come back into that inventory item, it remembered that for me. So I'm going to put it back to maximize because that's how I prefer to look at my screen. But that's a nicety for sure, and that's on a user-by-user basis. The same is true for things like these other fact boxes here. These individual fast tabs are called fast tabs. It's grouping fields on the inventory item card. So here we've got the item number, the description. That's all held under item. We've got some inventory information, pricing, and posting. So if I didn't necessarily use any of this, maybe it wasn't part of my responsibility, I can get rid of those, save myself some real estate, and the next time I come in, you guessed it, it's going to remember that and make sure that I'm able to see what I need to see. Let me go ahead and create a new inventory item. And I'm going to make this a retail item. And I'm going to set up an inventory item called couch. And we're going to use couch throughout this little demonstration. Let me make that a little. And I'm going to go and just into my pricing and put my price. Maybe it's $9.99.99. Let's see. And I'm going to give it a standard cost of $6.99. So now I have my cost and my price for my inventory item. I can also add attributes. This is a real win for Dynamics NAV. Attributes are things that allow us to give additional information about this object. So in this couch, maybe I want to identify the color and the depth, the height. Let me grab that from my list. And I'm just going to pick from my predefined drop down here, green. Maybe the depth is, I don't know, 28 inches. I don't know how big a couch is, George. 32 inches, and maybe let's give it a width so that we know this is going to fit in our living room, right? So there we've got some attributes about this item that we can tell the customer when they're on the phone with us, when they're asking those questions. So throughout Dynamics NAV, anytime there's activity on a master record, in this case an inventory item, or creation of a new, we can set up something called workflow. And that workflow allows for an approval process. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and submit this to approval so that my manager can make sure that I set up this pricing correctly. That's going to work its way through the system. I'm going to come back and go into the workflow area using this quick search. So notice as I type into the search, it's looking throughout the system and finding me areas that match my search criteria. I'm going to click on Workflow Templates. Workflow templates are like wizards in the system. If you've ever used Excel wizards, it's kind of the same thing. These are all of the out-of-the-box workflow templates that are available. You can certainly create your own, but we have right here an item approval workflow. So I have this set up to email. Actually, it's set up to email myself, but it's set up to email. And then let's see if I have my email over here. Not yet, just takes a second. Also, in addition to the workflow templates here, I can activate those workflows from other areas in the system as well. So if I went to vendors, right from within the vendor window, just like I did in the inventory, there's an action here for me to create my workflow right there. Alrighty, so let's see if my email has been received, and it has. Here it is. So no smoke and mirrors there. That's 219 today. I got my email indicating that this has been set up, and I can approve this right from within my email. So imagine this being on your phone. You click the link. It's going to take you log into Dynamics NAV for the web client. Now, this is the web client experience. You can see it's very similar to what we were looking at. Or I could actually go back into the thick client and approve it. I'm going to approve this right from here. And now that item is ready for me to use. So let's go ahead and pull up our couch. Using our quick search here. And I can look at my workflow audit trail so I can see that this has been approved. Now I can go ahead and place a purchase order for this. So that's our next step. We've created the item, and I'm going to go ahead and purchase this item. I'm going to go into purchase orders. There we go. And I'm going to create a new purchase order for that couch. I'm going to buy this from my favorite company, Sean's Cool Company. And I'm going to give it a number here, and then just pick that inventory item. I'll show you how easy this is. I don't know the item number, but if I just start typing the name, it's going to recognize that. I just want one for right now. And that price, if I remember, is $699.99. So now I have a purchase order that I'm ready to send off to that vendor. I'm going to release it, but first I'm going to send this right from within Dynamics NAV. It's going to create an email, put some information in the body of the email for us right here. Allow me to change the recipient and some information if I wanted to, but I'm good with the default. We'll send that, and I'm going to release this in the system. So now let's go back to my email here. There's my purchase order that I received, that I just sent. Notice I have some of the information in the body, but I can also double-click and see that nice purchase order that my vendor is going to receive, letting them know that they can go ahead and ship that couch to me. So next in that process is just that. We're going to receive this couch at our warehouse. So this order has been released, and now I'm ready to post this. I'm going to go ahead and post my receipt and my invoice. What this is going to do now is update my on-hand quantity for my inventory item and make it available to sell. So if I find my couch, you see that I have, let me come in here, quantity on hand, sorry, it was right there. Quantity on hand 1. And right from within here, if I wanted to see, if I want to adjust that inventory count and say we did a stock status, I could certainly do that. But now I have that for sale. Maybe I send out some marketing material, and my new favorite vendor, or my new favorite customer is going to email me and ask me to order this. This is pretty cool stuff. So I'm right within Outlook, and I'm going to say, hey, can you quote me for that green couch, right? So we'll send this off, and this is going to arrive at my company, at my sales office, providing I've used the right email address. I think I did. There we go. So I get this email from my business partner, and they're wanting to know if I can send them a quote. I'm in Outlook right now, Microsoft Outlook. I'm not in Nav. But if I go in up here to New and choose Sales Quote, what this is going to do is reach out to my Nav in Azure and present me with the ability to create a new contact. In this case, it's just a little confused because I'm the sender and the recipient of the email. So let me grab my customer. Sorry about that. Hit the wrong button. So let me grab my customer. There we go. For some reason the text is not showing up there. So there's my customer, and we want to create a sales quote for this customer. I'm going to move this over. Look at how dynamic that is right within Outlook. I can see I've got a couple things. I've sent them the, let's see, I'm going to create a new quote. Sorry about that. So I'm going to come in here, choose new sales quote. And now I have the ability to create my quote. So I'm going to say, okay, this quote is for pickup only, and I'm going to give them a quote for that inventory item. I'm going to give them a quote for that inventory item, my couch, and they want 1. And in this case, it's saying my customer has an overdue balance. I'm not sure why, because Sean's Cool Company is a good customer of ours. And right from within here, I'm going to go ahead and choose Send by Email. So they've asked me for a quote. I'm sending that to them via email. And this quote now is available in Nav just as soon as I created it in Outlook for someone else to use. So I don't even need to be in the Nav client to handle customer requests. So it sends some information. There's my copy of the sales quote, and off that goes. So let's send that. So that customer now is going to receive the quote. There's the quote. and they're going to say, sounds great, I'm on my way. So now we're going to let the system know that we want to turn that quote into an order right from within Outlook. So I'm just going to go ahead right within Outlook and pull up the customer again. Pull up that customer again, where I can see the open order, or excuse me, the open quote for this customer. So here I say I've got 2 quotes. Here's the one we just did, 1007. I'll pull that quote up right within Outlook, and I'm going to go ahead and turn that into an order. I'm going to make an order out of that. And yes, I want to create that in the system. So now I can, as you can imagine, I can send that by email, that now they have the order and the inventory quantity is on hold. Great. So now they've gone ahead, they've gone over to the warehouse, they've picked it up, and we want to invoice them. So I'm going to go ahead into sales orders. And I'm going to turn this order into an invoice. Let me open this order up. And there we go. So now this is going to be emailed off to the customer as well. So we do not have to manually mail that invoice off to the customer. Pretty cool stuff. So with that, I showed you new inventory items, how to procure and how to sell something. So now I want to show you a little bit about financial reporting. And I'm going to go back to my President home screen here and show you, we have our KPIs here, but I'm going to pull up something called account schedules. And account schedules are in the product quick and easy financial tools. So I'm going to open up my income statement. This is my setup, so you can see I've got all my accounts listed in there. And I'm going to go ahead and run my income statement. So right that easy, there's my income statement. And I can move this to Excel if I wanted to. But also what I could do is, since this just has net change, I want to show you how easy it is to go and modify this. So here's my net change row. I'm going to add another row, and we'll call it budget. And we're going to grab a budget. My budget data here instead of entries. And then I'm going to add another column for variance. And I'm going to make this a formula. And I'm just going to say very simply row 20 minus row 10. And now, so when I run my report, I should get 3 columns. And in those 3, I want to pick my budget that I want to year, or my budget year that I want to use. And now I have net change, budget, and variance. And it is literally that easy to make changes to an income statement and get the data that you need. The last thing I want to show you is Jet Express. And these are Excel reports that look live at your data and present useful financial statements, dashboards, KPIs, you name it. And every one of these I'm showing you are out of the box, not customized at all. So using the power of Excel, we're looking live at our data. We get a data set here. This particular one is for sales and profit by country. I can use slicers to change which country is selected. Here we'll go to USA. Quickly, easily remove that. This is all in one file. I just want to show you these, George, because they are pretty powerful, pretty impressive. And let me come over here to, here's a trial balance versus prior year. And again, if I wanted to just see my income statement accounts, I could toggle that. If I wanted to see just my balance sheet accounts, I could do so. Let me look at another one here that I have. Here we're looking at budget information. Here's a different way of looking at your income statement. This is a month-by-month income statement for the year. Here's one of my favorites. This is an income statement, again, month by month, with some visual indicators here that show us real easily without having to dissect the actual numbers, where we have some change. Another tab showing the same information for budget, and then lastly, a variance report with another type of indicator here showing us trends, which is pretty awesome as well. So with that, I hope that was an interesting and fun introduction to Dynamics NAV. And George, I will turn it back to you and see if we have any questions.
All right, thank you, Sean. And just one question. Someone asked, how does the security work? And also,
great question.
If you can customize the role centers.
Great question. Security works on a user basis, and there's all sorts of predefined security roles. So basically, we create a new user, assign them to a security set, and a role center. The role centers most definitely are customizable as well. So here are the different permission sets that are available out of the box, but certainly these are customizable as well, just like the role centers. So yes, definitely.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sean. And I promised we would talk about pricing after the live demo, so that's what's up next. So let's talk about pricing and how to buy. So there's different ways that you can purchase NAV. The first we'll talk about is the on-premise pricing. And there's a starter pack and an extended pack. You get quite a bit with the starter pack. You get your basic, you get all the financials and supply chain capabilities. The extended pack adds additional functionality on top of that. It extends, like for supply chain, it'll add some warehouse management features or manufacturing. I got a 40-page document that outlines exactly what's included with each. So if you really are interested, give us a call and we can go through that with you. But the starter pack starts off at $5,000, and that includes the first 3 users. If you need the extended pack functionality, you add $10,000 on top of that. And then for every user above the first 3, it's another $3,000. Now these are one-time fees. You do pay 16% annual maintenance, which gets you access to the Microsoft website called Customer Source. There's online training, self-support, all kind of great benefits there. Now, the one thing I didn't mention is there's also a limited user. It's primarily a read-only user, but you can select a few tables to give it write access. So a lot of systems just have read-only or full users. These limited users are a little bit unique. So if you need one person that just does one task and you don't want to shell out the $3,000 for the full user, a limited user might be the trick right there, or do the trick for you. Now, implementation services, that's additional. You know, a good rule of thumb is a 1-to-1 ratio with what you're paying for the software licenses for the implementation services. With NAV, sometimes it's 1-to-1, sometimes it's 2-to-1. It all depends on, you know, the number of users and the complexity, everything you want to set up. So subscription and SaaS pricing. Now you see 2 columns here. Subscription pricing is just the price for the software. You would have to have your own hardware to run that on. Maybe you already have an Azure environment and you want to have NAV on that. Hey, the subscription pricing could be a nice way to go there. And the SaaS pricing, that's turnkey cloud option. You don't have to worry about anything except having a connection to the internet and a computer, of course. But with this full-blown SaaS, you get your backups, server maintenance, upgrades, everything is included in that price. Now, one thing I forgot to mention here on this prior slide is the configuration and development tools. So there are, NAV is very customizable. We didn't get into that too much today just for, you know, lack of time. But you can create your own forms, screens, add fields. Depending on what you want to do, there's various licenses that you need to purchase for that. They start pretty low. Like if you just need to add some fields or forms, it's another $100 or so. So now, how to buy NAV. It is sold exclusively through Microsoft partners such as, and it is our job to help you understand your capabilities, match up the solution, identify any add-ons you might need, do demos, provide implementation services like training, data conversion, things like that. So we're here to help. We also on our website, www.interdynartis.com, you can sign up for a free 30-day trial if you want to check it out for yourself. So I mentioned our website just now. You can also email us at info@interdynartis.com, or you can go ahead and give us a call at 704-846-6750. So before we wrap things up, I'm going to see if there are any more questions. And I do have one more. So how long does it take to implement NAV? That's a great question. And honestly, the answer is it depends. So a basic job, just 3 to 5 users, financials, we could probably get that done within a month, 1 to 2 months tops. Just a supply chain or more complex manufacturing deal, that might be in the 3 or 4 month range, and a really large complex deal, to get all the way up to 6 months from start to finish. So we'll wait another minute, see if there's any other questions. And it doesn't look like there are, so I thank everybody for your time this afternoon. We look forward to speaking to you soon, and have a great day. Thanks.